Hello and welcome to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. My name is Natalie Himmelrich. This morning when I was in the shower was the first time this year that I consciously realized that my daughter's birthday and therefore also my younger twin daughter's death anniversary is coming around, and it's about in 2 weeks' time as of recording this. I found it interesting that I noticed this only this morning. Obviously we've been planning our daughter's birthday, but I haven't really thought about the upcoming anniversary. So over the next couple of weeks I'm gonna, as usual, make space and be aware of what it might bring up. But today, in today's episode, I was actually inspired by a clip this morning that I saw on Instagram where Elizabeth Gilbert speaks about the two distinctly different experiences, namely grief and depression. And I feel it's important to say a bit more about that topic, which I am personally aware of as well. So today we're going to dive into the understanding and the intricacies of emotional health, specifically focusing on the differences between grief and depression. These are often conflated and they're distinctly different experiences that require different approaches for effective support and management, both for yourself and with others. It's important for me to draw attention to that because, as I said before, I have personal experience with both, and as I wrestled with both of them at different stages of my life, my journey has taught me that these challenging emotional landscapes are important to be able to differentiate, because a lot of my clients coming to me for grief support have wondered whether they are depressed. So I hope to share some insight with you today about that. But first, let's define again specifically what we mean by grief and depression. So grief, as I said many times before, is a natural emotional response to loss, which can be the death of a loved one. It can also be through significant life changes or any form of personal loss. So I remember when I lost my daughter and shortly after that my mother, it felt like waves of sorrow crashing over me. Sometimes sorrow, sadness, other times anger or longing. And you might find that your emotions fluctuate and that you find solace in the memories of the person or thing you've lost. And so while grief is intense, it generally lessens over time, allowing you to eventually find what is called a new normal. Depression, on the other hand, is a mental health condition characterized by persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness, and a huge lack of interest or pleasure in activities. So unlike grief, depression often involves a pervasive sense of worthlessness, and it can severely impact daily functioning. I've been through periods of burnout depression where the sadness didn't just come in waves. It was there, just feeling like a fog, an unrelenting fog that blurred everything else. Everything that I was seeing was through like a gray filter. It wasn't usually tied to any specific events, although there might have been situations in my life and in my surroundings that have contributed to it. And in many cases, medication and therapy can help you to manage and learn ways to come back out of burnout and depression. Understanding the difference between grief and depression is crucial for offering appropriate support and seeking the right kind of help. So what are the key differences between grief and depression? So one major difference obviously lies in the cause. Grief is typically triggered by a specific loss, whereas depression can occur without a clear external reason. With the loss, I don't just mean loss through death, it can be any kind of loss. So when I was grieving, it felt like an emotional roller coaster that was ongoing, like intense, relentless sadness, interspersed with small moments of joy. In my case, I had a younger daughter, baby. And also when I was thinking back on the good memories with my mother, but still grief allowed me to still find some small moments of happiness in other areas of my life. Whereas depression, however, felt like a constant cloud, a pervasive sense of despair, like I said, like a grey cloud hovering over my head. Positive emotions were rare or fleeting, or I could see something like that would usually give me joy, and I just could not feel it. Physically, while grief led to temporary disruptions, for example, in my sleep, appetite, that eventually improved, depression brought chronic changes in my sleep patterns, significant weight changes, and an overwhelming lack of energy. Now, in my case, because I was a young mother of a newborn baby, obviously at that time I also had an overwhelming lack of energy and problems sleeping, but they were due to being a young mother, new mother. But recognizing these key differences is essential for providing the right emotional support or seeking, as I said, appropriate treatment. So grief significantly impacts emotional health. It often causes a wide range of intense emotions. I remember feeling, as I said, profound sadness. I felt like I was an actor in a film that would eventually stop. But also anger at my mother, for example, or maybe even guilt, all at different times. And these emotional waves are normal and typical, and they usually ebb and flow as you move through the grieving process. Grief can also affect your identity and purpose. Like the loss of my daughter and mother disrupted my own self-concept, my identity, my future outlook, and that led to feelings of uncertainty and isolation. So these emotional turbulences interfered with my daily activities and responsibility, making it really tough to maintain normal routines. Additionally, grief can lead to temporary cognitive impairments, such as difficulty concentrating, memory lapses, and decision-making challenges. And it's important to be patient with yourself and with others who are navigating grief. Let's have a look at depression's impact. Depression profoundly affects also emotional health, often leading to a persistent sense of sadness, hopelessness, and worthlessness. Unlike grief, which fluctuates, depression's impact and emotions are typically more constant and all-encompassing. During my depressive episodes, I lost interest in most, if not all, activities I once enjoyed, and even small tasks felt overwhelming. Also, cognitive functions are affected by depression. I also had difficulties in concentrating, memory, decision-making, similar to grief, and they were common to me, and they also only exacerbated the feelings of frustration and inadequacy. Furthermore, depression often has physical manifestation, also such as chronic fatigue, also changes in sleep patterns, significant weight fluctuations, and these physical symptoms can further impact emotional well-being, making daily life even more challenging. Again, same as with grief, understanding depression's impact is key to recognizing the severity of the condition and seeking appropriate medical and therapeutic interventions. So what are coping strategies and support for grief? Coping with grief involves acknowledging and expressing emotions. For me, it was creating a support network, first of all with myself, with friends, family, and support groups, which was essential, but also sharing memories and talking about my loss provided profound relief. Me and my husband at the time, we went to a support group at the hospital where we gave birth, where other parents who lost their children through pregnancy or neonatal losses. So in my case, also interviewing other bereaved parents in writing my first book, Grieving Parents, while grieving for my daughter that brought me meaning and purpose. Where in the aftermath of the death of my mother, I joined a year-long Family Survivors of Suicide Victims group, which really helped me as well to relate to people who experienced the similar kind of loss in that sense. It can also be engaging in rituals and activities that honor the loss, like creating a memory book or participating in commemorative events, which can offer comfort and help maintain connections to the loved one while finding a new normal. And I cannot say it enough, self-care is crucial too. In my case, I found that regular exercise, and with that I don't mean strenuous exercises. For example, after my mother's death, I just walked the creek in the back of our house regularly, and I just imagined the water of the river flowing through me and taking all that grief and washing it through. But also a balanced diet or adequate sleep patterns made a significant difference in my emotional well-being. It can also be mindfulness techniques such as meditation or journaling or writing, which also for me allowed me to process the emotions and reduce stress. And I wouldn't be a therapist myself if I wouldn't say that professional support like grief counseling and therapy, which I also took advantage in, they provided me with strategies for dealing with grief, even though I was steeped in it and understood it. Dealing with myself just like the dentist goes to another dentist to care for their teeth. So my therapist offered a safe space to explore and understand my emotions, giving me like a sounding board to really facilitate the healing process. Let's have a look at the support options for depression and grief. Support for both depression and grief is critical for recovery and emotional health. For those experiencing depression, professional help is often necessary, and I can only attest to that from my personal experience. It can be psychotherapy such as CBT, which stands for cognitive behavioral therapy. This was instrumental in addressing my negative thought patterns and behaviors. But also medication, which is prescribed by your medical health practitioner, can also play a crucial role in managing symptoms. Beyond professional treatment, social support is vital. In regards to me talking about the nervous system, co-regulation is one of the most important ways to help your nervous system regulate, and you can listen to episode number 40 if you want more information about that. Also, friends and family can alleviate feelings of isolation, or participating in support groups, whether that be in person or online, connected me with others who understood my struggles, offering a sense of community and shared experience. If you want to join one of the groups that I've created, it's called Maybe I'll Heal, and you find the link in the show notes. For those coping with grief, similar forms of support can be beneficial. Grief counseling provides space to express emotions, and you obviously gain coping strategies, because most often people experience a significant loss, have not ever felt this intense emotions in relation to the loss ever before. Peer support groups offer comfort and understanding from those who have experienced similar losses. I think that's really important if you can talk to people who have experienced a similar kind of loss than you have. So combining professional treatment with a robust support network significantly improved my emotional health and resilience in navigating both grief and depression. So I hope this has given you some clarity and insight of the difference, but also the similarities between grief and depression. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you or someone you know is grappling with grief and depression, I hope this episode has provided you with some clarity and direction. Remember, seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Take care, and until next time, be kind to yourself.
Thanks for listening to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. If you'd like to be updated on future episodes, please subscribe to my newsletter on nataliehimmelrich.com. If you need grief support, please contact me for a 30 minutes free discovery session. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is produced and edited by me, Natalie Himmelrich. To support this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you. And remember to keep breathing. I promise it will get easier.